It seems like everyone and their mother is obsessed with the new Netflix documentary, The Crash. The Crash covers the case of Mackenzie Shirilla, who in 2022 crashed her car into the side of a brick building at 92 miles an hour, killing her boyfriend, 20-year-old Dominic Russo, and the other passenger, 19-year-old Davion Flanagan. Mackenzie, just 17 at the time, went through a grueling and public trial that in the end determined that this crash was intentional. This case has been covered on quite a few cable documentaries in the past, but this 2026 Netflix version is something that we all are up in arms about. Especially because this is the first time we're hearing from Mackenzie's parents in a formal sit-down interview setting. And there probably is good reason for that. If you're new here, my name's Rocky. I'm a true crime obsessed TV producer, and today I'm here to take you through a couple of things that I think Netflix left out about this case that you need to know. First and foremost, one of the hottest topics of the week is Mackenzie's dad, Steve Shirilla. In the documentary itself, he's scrutinized for a lot of comments he makes about marijuana and his laxity toward his daughter's use, especially while operating a motor vehicle. Wearing a t-shirt that says "boom" on it, while he's talking about his daughter killing 2 people in a car crash. It seems that Steve still can't keep his foot out of his mouth because he did a recent interview with TMZ where he even had this to say.
Who am I to say who can smoke and who can't smoke? Now, I never allowed my daughter to smoke marijuana. How was I stopping her? Couldn't lock her up in her room.
Well, Steve, maybe locking her in her room wouldn't be such a bad idea considering where she's locked up now. After appearing in the documentary, Steve Shirilla was put on administrative leave from his job as an art and media teacher at a local high school. The school released this statement. Families and guardians, we're investigating allegations made on social media that one of our teachers has demonstrated poor judgment. Upon learning of the allegation, the school acted immediately and placed the teacher on administrative leave. The investigation is ongoing. We want every parent and family to know that the safety, well-being, and trust of our students remains among our highest priorities. We take all students' concerns seriously and are committed to responding promptly and responsibly whenever concerns are brought forward. While we're limited in what we can share during an active investigation, please know that we are reviewing the matter and will provide additional communication as appropriate. Now, aside from Steve's comments, I thought it was interesting when I looked into Steve's record that he himself had 5 speeding tickets. His most recent being in 2021, just a year before Mackenzie's crash. The prosecutor in this case theorized that Mackenzie was trying to take her own life as well as Dominic's in this crash. But Mackenzie's friends and family in the documentary pretty much refute that she ever had ideations of self-harm, one of them claiming she wouldn't even eat a McChicken. If eating a McChicken is suicidal behavior, I'd be gone a long time ago. But I digress. But more importantly, there is a real-life police report from 2020 that states the cops were called because Mackenzie was attempting self-harm. One of the cops on the scene of the crash even said when hearing her name, "Mackenzie, I think I've dealt with her before."
Where's her address, you know? Mackenzie. I was just curious. I think I've dealt with her before.
Mackenzie and her mom do talk about this in the jail phone calls, and this is what they have to say.
And besides, that call, Kenzie, was from 2020. It was so long ago, too. I'm like, really, guys?
Oh, me and Dom arguing?
No, when they came to the house for the quote-unquote suicide visit. I didn't know that's how they documented that call, or I would have changed that. That wasn't what was happening. Why would they put that?
It was because I was being destructive and I was breaking shit.
No, you weren't breaking stuff. We were afraid you were going to. You were just throwing a fit because you were grounded.
I just find it interesting that on this phone call, Mackenzie's kind of admitting that she was out of line and freaking out during that visit, and Mackenzie's mom is trying to hush and minimize, which is completely in her character. It's also alleged that Mackenzie's mom was trying to minimize things from the jump. Now, I'm not surprised they didn't include this in the documentary. As a TV producer myself, I know there must have been a good faith agreement between Mackenzie's parents and production that they wouldn't blatantly try to make the parents look bad, although they do a pretty good job of it themselves. But that being said, it's alleged that Mackenzie's mom and Mackenzie were in the hospital the day after the crash, faced with police, and Mackenzie starts talking in Pig Latin or gibberish, and she says, "Can't we just tell them I had a seizure?" Yeah. By the way, folks, Pig Latin and gibberish are not that hard to decode. For example, I had a seizure. Her mother was also reportedly harassing the police on a daily basis to try to get access to Mackenzie's cell phone, specifically her Snapchat pin. Obviously, they didn't release the phone to her because it was an ongoing investigation, but what they did find on her phone was yet another piece of evidence that was kind of glazed over in the Netflix documentary. And that's Mackenzie's alleged sex work. Before the accident, there's messages from Dom to Mackenzie discussing how he wants her to engage in some sexual foot play with another gentleman. But what's even more disturbing to me is that after the crash, she picked up right where she left off on her Snapchat with her suitors, letting them know her availability, offering photos for money. It all just sounds really shady. And I hate hearing that Dominic was possibly behind or encouraging all of this. But the couple's lack of young innocence is something else I think that was minimized in the Netflix version of this story. Recovered at the crash site in Mackenzie's backpack was 6.9 grams of mushrooms. Now, if you're not street savvy, that's more mushrooms than one typically consumes. But worse, there was also a scale included. I don't think that scale was being used for baking. Mackenzie had this to say about the mushrooms when she was in jail.
Fucking drugs.
Oh, yep.
That's irritating
And he
as
should have
fuck.
known better too, and that makes me mad. I'm mad at him for that. Telling you that you can't get in trouble, so just to hold everything.
He always told me that. He always had me hold everything.
I know. That's because you were a minor.
So were Dom and Mackenzie co-running an operation to sell drugs? Can't deny the hundreds of photos of Mackenzie using copious amounts of marijuana. Not just little baby joints here and there, these big, thick ones that obviously cost money that a 17-year-old shouldn't have. While the documentary did include an interview with Mackenzie in prison, we really didn't hear a lot about her day-to-day life. However, former inmate Kat Crowder recently spoke to the media about her experience and observations being in the same reformatory as Mackenzie. And if you thought Mackenzie was a mean girl, you won't be surprised to hear that that behavior seems to have continued behind bars. First of all, it's a low-security prison, so Mackenzie still is able to wake up, do her makeup, do her hair, have friend groups, and it's alleged that she does have quite a collection of girlfriends in her short time there, which I think that's a pretty common prison experience. I'm not slamming her for slamming in the slammer, but it does sound like her attitude toward other inmates leaves a lot to be desired. Allegedly, she's constantly making fun of them for their clothes, which you're all wearing the same thing, and looking down on other women who don't have access to as much commissary as her. Another update not included in the Netflix documentary is about Mackenzie's appeal. Now, I don't know if this interview occurred before or after they tried to file this, but in March of 2026, Mackenzie's lawyer did attempt to appeal and was met with a denial, but not for the reasons you think. It was actually a timing issue. So in the state of Ohio, you have 365 days to appeal your sentence after it occurs, but Mackenzie's lawyer seemed to file her appeal on the 366th day. He tried to argue that it was a leap year, and so a 24-hour grace period should be granted, but the judge just found that bogus, so Mackenzie won't have another opportunity for parole until 2038. The Shirillas really know how to pick a lawyer, huh? I wonder if this is the same lawyer who used POTS as his main defense, but never called up an expert medical witness to back up the diagnosis or the symptoms. Part of me does wonder if it's a lack of finances that sort of led to them having such poor counsel, because when I looked into Steve's speeding tickets, I also found that they had filed for bankruptcy, so could be a financial issue. This also would explain why Mackenzie wasn't put up for bail. If you've filed for bankruptcy in the past, you usually have a really low chance of getting a loan. But that's just my personal speculation, okay? There's honestly so much more I could sit here and talk about with this case forever, but let me know in the comments below what stood out to you and what you've learned since watching the crash. And in the meantime, stay weird, stay aware, and stay safe. And don't forget to subscribe to CrimeVine.